Hello and welcome back to the Villa podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, I've got a massive smile beaming from my face, as do you. Do you know why, Dan? Do you know why, guys? It's our first Transfer Rumour podcast officially of the summer. The season has ended. What a season it's been. We've had, I think, a well-earned week off, sort of posting podcasts and stuff like that. Dan, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Does this class as our first one of 21-22 then, or are we still calling this the 2021 season?
Do you know, I never know where to draw the lines because
No, that's true. That's a good point.
I mean, I think halfway through our Transfer Rumour podcast in the summer, I started season 5, which was 65 episodes, I want to say, last season.
Wow.
We did, which is crazy to think about it. So we'll come to that. You know, we'll cross that bridge when it comes. I think we're nearly at 200 podcast episodes as well, which is even crazier to think about, Dan. But nevertheless, as the podcasts go on, as we continue to grow, the Transfer Rumour episodes also continue to get exciting. And Dan, I think after last summer and even after January, it almost felt impossible for it to, you know, for the scope, for the excitement of the players to really sort of ramp up to another level. But given how Villa ended the season, with the ambitions, with how just successful overall the season was, really, despite finishing 11th. I can't believe I have to say that, but how successful the campaign was, Dan, is going to lead to a whole new level of these Transfer Rumour Mill podcasts that you guys, we know you'll love. It's the bread and butter of the channel. Dan and I absolutely love recording these, and no doubt we have a summer filled with exciting transfers, which Dan and I, we're here to take you all the way, aren't we, mate?
Yeah, for sure, mate. I think our days of Borja Baston and Danny Drinkwater are long gone, thankfully, aren't they? I think we've turned the corner since then.
Absolutely. And today we've got, two fantastically exciting wingers that we are here to discuss, Dan. I'm going to go first with, you guys would have seen the title now. We're going to go with Dwight McNeil first from Burnley. And, you know, I'd say this with an asterisk, probably the most overwhelming out of the two that we are discussing today. But that is not me, of course, diminishing the quality or caliber of player that McNeil is, because he is a very exciting prospect. And to see Villa linked with them, it's very interesting, actually, Dan. McNeil, he kind of feels like he's actually been around forever, really, doesn't he? I guess that's kind of a facet of being a part of this Burnley squad, because can you believe Sean Dyche has managed Burnley for 9 years now, Dan?
Crazy. That is crazy, isn't it? Would you
believe
it?
And I mean, even that seems like it's coming to an end. And McNeil has actually been around Burnley for about 3.5 seasons now, since sort of first breaking into the team. All time, he's got 7 goals, 16 assists, and he's only 21. And again, I say only 21 because, as I've just said, it kind of felt like McNeil he's been around the block. He's been here for a long time. He's been sort of lingering around that England under 21 squad. There's been some question marks as to whether he deserved to get a full call up, which Sean Dyche has been very vocal about. Which, you know, you got to back him for supporting his boys. That is, you got to rate that. But McNeil this season only got 2 goals and 5 assists in 36 appearances. Outperformed the XG, which is 1.1, with an XA of 6.5 throughout the season, which is actually puts him underperforming in terms of expected assists. He's created 9 goals, creating actions, and that quantifies as either a pass, a through ball, a cross, a dribble, whatever that may be, that has directly led to a goal. So he's been involved in 9 goals, with only being credited for 5, which is, you know, it's impressive. And you've got to kind of consider the kind of side that comes with as well, Dan, doesn't it? Because Burnley are a very defensive side. And when you look at Chris Wood being their top goal scorer with, I think it's 9 goals this season, maybe 11, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, guys. I mean, we all know how Burnley play, but it's kind of difficult, isn't it, when you're playing in a side that plays 2 banks of 4, you're playing on that left wing, and he's a traditional touchline winger because of the system that they're playing, which again doesn't necessarily complement the system that Villa are trying to run at the moment, Dan, but it's a bit of a difficult one, and I'm not really quite sure where I actually stand on Dwight McNeil. I think when you watch him, he's certainly an exciting player. Of course, the numbers can only mean so much. He's got to pass the eye test, which I think, you know, on many occasions this season, Dan, he's been a fantastic talent, signed a contract extension in October this year. Again, only 21 years old, just to reiterate that point, Dan. There's a lot of time left in this guy's career. And, I feel I'm a bit uncertain about this one, especially given, you know, as we've kind of alluded to, Dan, the caliber of players that we've been linked to, even, you know, one that we're going to speak about a bit later on in this podcast, Dan. Where do you stand with Dwight McNeil? How do you see him fit him in? And what does this mean for Aston Villa as a whole? Because obviously he is a left winger. He's a left midfielder. So that's the kind of position that we've been seeing the best of our captain, isn't it, really? So it's kind of like, where's he fit in?
Exactly that. I think what it means for Villa is that it almost certainly moves Jack into the middle, which I think is a move that will. It's where Jack is going to play the majority of his football. You'd like to think as his career closes out. That's where he's claimed he wants to spend his time is in the middle of the park, and so I think that switch will eventually happen. Dwight McNeil is an out and out left winger. He's not sort of one of the inverted wingers that we've seen Dean Smith like to play with. But I think you have to give with McNeil those numbers context that you were doing there, Dan. That those 5 assists that he's got this season in the Premier League doesn't take your breath away. But when you compare them to other players of his age bracket, as you said, he's 21 years old. That's the same amount of assists as Phil Foden. It's the same amount of assists as Mason Mount. So there's, when you give it that sort of context, 80 shot creating actions this season in the Premier League. And the other side of his game is obviously sort of a product of the club that he plays for, but playing for Burnley, high defensive contributions as well, really ranking quite highly in that metric amongst other wingers on that side, 92 blocks, 81 clearances, 76 interceptions throughout the course of the season. And to be that seasoned with over 100 games for Burnley at the age of 21, he was a schoolboy with Manchester United as well, but they've booted him out. And I think he's come back to haunt them on a number of occasions. So I think when you give that the context and you look at the experience, I think you have to take into account the club that he plays for. You're not likely, given where the source of the goals come from in that Burnley team. Sean Dyche isn't looking to get goals from his wingers. That is solely pinned on the likes of Chris Wood, Ashley Barnes, Joe Rodriguez, those kind of strikers. His job is to serve those players and to create those shots that I was talking about earlier. And so I think when you take that all into account, it would be interesting to see what he would do in this Villa team. But my main issue is does he give us something otherworldly to what Anwar does or what Trezeguet does or what Bertrand Traore does? Does he give us that going from, sort of that one step where we're hovering around mid-table to pushing for Europa League? Does he give it? Is there that much of a golfing difference between him and Anwar or him and Bertrand? I'm not sure. I'm not saying that there isn't going to be one day because he's 21. I have no doubt that further down the line, he's going to improve massively. But right now, which is when matters to Villa, because we have to make that step now, is he all that different to what we already have? I don't think so.
I think as well, just to kind of add some more context, of course, you're kind of looking at a different type of winger, but to look at Matheus Pereira, who again is someone who Villa have been linked with, someone who will undoubtedly do the Transfer Rumour podcast on in a bit more detail. He's got 11 goals and 6 assists this season in a side that plays very similar football, has, arguably done a lot worse, getting relegated. Burnley obviously very close there, and has a much better sort of goals and assists. Output, all-round play, you could argue, is different there. I understand that. But in terms of looking for what Villa actually want from the kind of position, of course, Pereira plays on the right, McNeil plays on the left, but kind of categorising them as wingers, it's interesting. And as you said, Dan, you didn't even mention Trezeguet. Villa are going to sign another winger, and I don't know what that means for Bertrand, for Anwar, or even for Trezeguet. You can't really shift on an injured asset at the moment, and you would think that of the two of Anwar and Bertrand, with Bertrand being the new guy, that Anwar probably only has one more season left at the club, which is sad to say because, massive Anwar fans on this podcast, Dan. But, McNeil's a really interesting link, and I would be interested to see how this one would play out, especially, Transfermarkt have him down at a 19.8 valuation, £1 million valuation, which is, I don't know, I think in the market, it's probably fair, especially sort of reflecting on, English tax. So, a lot, you don't really want to have to do too much business with other Premier League clubs because you don't want to get rinsed, especially with how vocal certain outlets have been about how much money Villa do or don't have to spend. Always heightens the prices, and you don't want to see Villa get ripped off. And I do feel like with this one, Dan, to nip this in the bud, there's probably better value elsewhere. It's been heavily reported by local media in Burnley and Lancashire. It started making its way over to our local media, Birmingham Mail, outlets like that. I just don't see too much in this one, Dan. I really don't. He's not the kind of winger that the club seems to be attracting. Of course, I think, at 21 years old, there's so much room for development. I mean, we're older than Dwight McNeil, which is mental. We're talking about players who we're actually older than now. We're getting to that age, but it's not an option I see. I mean, I would certainly, it's a signing I'd get behind if it was to happen, as with any player, Dan. And I do think that the coaching staff have proven that they are actually able to take players and improve them significantly. Certainly develop the players' overall games. But I'm much more excited for our second option, Dan, who you're about to talk us through, aren't you?
Yes, mate. And to be fair, this is a player that I've been banging the drum on for a little while. Now. I remember doing transfer rumours in January about this guy, where we talked about him and Orsic. We've done transfer rumours last summer when I wanted this guy after Norwich got relegated. It is, of course, EMI Buendia, who's got loads of potential suitors. So this is, I feel like we're going to have to fend off more clubs going for Buendia than we would Dwight McNeil. And I'm just going to relay to you some of the reasons why that is the case. So he's directly contributed, that's goals or assists, to 52% of Norwich City's league goals this season as they won the league. 15 goals, 17 assists for Norwich in 39 games. Who scores highest rated player in the Championship last season? Received his first call-up for Argentina as well recently, which is absolutely huge, which again puts his stock up just another level. His numbers this season in the Championship have been absolutely insane. We know that. What he does in the Championship is absolutely brilliant. I've seen Arsenal fans talk about it when they've been linked with Buendia. Is how does he compare to the Premier League? How can he make that step up? Because we've seen many players and do so with Villa. You look at Ollie Watkins, you look at Jack, those players that have come up with the Championship and made the leap quite seamlessly. But can he do that? So I think if you look at his time in the Premier League with Norwich, when they finished bottom, it was a really poor season from them. He actually only Trent, Jack Grealish, of course, and KDB created more chances than Buendia during Norwich's relegation this season. I mean, even despite spending this season in the Championship, only Kevin De Bruyne has made more accurate through balls than EMI Buendia in the Premier League since 2019, which is an absolutely crazy metric considering the players that are currently playing in the league. And there was this one month in December, he had a great month. He created 29 chances in the Premier League in December 2019, which is the most that any player has created in a single calendar month in any one of Europe's top 5 leagues since Andrea Pirlo created 34 with Juventus back in April 2012. I rest my case, mate.
What a year that was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Buendia, listen, he's got so many interested parties, Arsenal mainly being the one. And again, this kind of comes down to, is it realistic? Can Villa really sell the project to Buendia, to his agents? Because, you're kind of, neck and neck, Arsenal and Villa right now. Neither have European football. There is one club that is clearly on the up and another that is stagnating. However, they're a huge club and you can't ever take away the kind of lure that, playing for an Arsenal has. They're a massive club. I don't think we can say they're the biggest club in London now after Chelsea won the Champions League, Dan, but that's another matter, isn't it? And there's been a lot of talk recently about how there's, alleged interest from Buendia, from his agent, a lot of talk about fees, Dan. We're hearing Villa have allegedly put in an initial offer of around 30 million. I can't remember where I read that, so please do forgive me. It could be capped, it could not be. It's the summer. You got to take this with a grain of salt. We're reporting on what we're seeing. We are not reporting them as facts from ourselves. These are not in the nose whatsoever. We're just kind of rehashing what we are seeing online. And it makes sense. Villa make the first move. Arsenal, they kind of have to go all out to San Martin Odegaard, don't they, Dan, really, with considering how successful his loan spell has been. Real Madrid are in desperate need for money. I can't see Arsenal necessarily passing up on Odegaard. I don't really see a transfer window where they spend 40 million on 2 players who operate in similar positions of the pitch. And it'd be an interesting one to see Villa go with this one, Dan. I think, kind of opening with that 30 million offer allegedly. The ball is now in Arsenal's court. I think Villa are probably only going to make one marquee signing this summer, Dan, and I can't see us paying more than 40 million for anyone, really, regardless of the kind of player that comes up. So I think that's probably our ceiling. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this one goes, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, Norwich aren't in a position where they need to sell. You look at the fact that they will inevitably have ambitions of their own. They really want to stem the tide and prove that they're not just this yo-yo club. They've seen Fulham come up and do it and just sort of constantly flitter between the 2 divisions. Norwich, I don't think any team's been more promoted or relegated from either the Championship or the Premier League than Norwich City, and they really want to put that record straight. They will have ambitions of their own. They're not just there to make up the numbers, I'm sure. But ultimately there is a ceiling to that club. Buendia will know it. He spent a lot of time there. I think he's now going away with players like Argentina. And look, Norwich, they're not in a position where they necessarily need to accept 30 million. I think if we get Buendia, it will certainly be considerably higher than that. But I think there is ultimately, when he looks at other players who have had similar sort of storylines, Mateus Pereira is another example whereby then you need to act too quickly. There's not too much time for sentiment, I don't think. And Villa managed to sell a project to an Arsenal player, let's not forget, in EMI Martinez. So if you're looking at players having to choose between those two clubs, EMI did that, and he's leaving the club that we're seemingly basking this player for. And you're right. And when you look at Ødegaard, you look at Emil Smith-Rowe, who I think definitely needs to. He's had a fantastic season. He needs to be in that conversation now of Arsenal players who are going to play that creative 10 wide role. You look at Bukayo Saka that can operate in similar positions. They sometimes tend to play Martinelli or Lacazette off the wings. There's so many different options they've got in those wide positions that I don't think you can guarantee Buendia the starting time that you can give him at Aston Villa. And the other thing I think which is important with Buendia is we struggled without Jack with players that can step into that mould and play his role in creating chances, in getting the assists and the goals that our captain provides. You only have to look at this guy's numbers to know that he can do that. So I think he gives us that insurance that if we do lose Jack to another injury, and he's picked up a major injury now in 2 out of the last 3 seasons. So this guy isn't, he's not... he did so in our promotion year and obviously this season. So Jack's not exactly made of glass, but he's proven that he's not, given the amount of fouls he takes on, he's susceptible to a knock, and that's just going to be the way that it is, it seems. We need players who can fill those boots, and players have really struggled with that in recent years in both seasons that he's gotten injured. I think Buendia might just be the man to help with that void if he does get injured again.
Definitely. I think, the wingers as well this season, Dan, or last season, sorry, the season's over, have kind of blown hot and cold, both Anwar, Bertrand. We've seen some good spells from Trezeguet when he's fit as well, certainly at the start of the season, in a more sort of defensive role. I think it's really important that we get this position locked down. I think the start of the season has proved the defence of the goalkeeper is absolutely solid, does not need touching whatsoever. Arguments of a new 6, a sole central defensive midfielder. But then again, you look at Nakamba's late form, seeing how much better McGinn plays with Nakamba anchoring that midfield. I think, it does all kind of lend itself to the fact that Villa need another flair player. They need that other player who can have fans on the edge of their seats, which is hopefully, something that we'll be able to have in September, fans on the edge of their seats and not on the edges of their sofas. And I think Villa should go all out for Buendia. And again, I don't know whether it's just a Villa thing. I don't know whether it's just because, Dan, we see this kind of news every day. We're in the kind of industry whereby we need, we need to make sure we're constantly clued up. I don't know whether this seems too much of a known sort of transfer that Norwich could potentially exploit a bit more money out of us. I think for the past 5 years, Dan, you can really accuse Villa of not necessarily handling their transfer business in much of a private manner. You just got to look at the kind of fees we've paid for Brentford players over the years, how much they've managed to extort out of us. I think Villa will play, will hopefully look to play with their cards close to their chests. And listen, Emi's going to be away with Buendia in this Argentina camp as well, if the Copa Libertadores is even going ahead, because that seems like a bit of a confusing tournament at the moment as well, Dan. But there's so many factors, and this is certainly not. It's not the first time we spoke about Buendia, as Dan said. It definitely isn't going to be the last time we speak about EMI Buendia on this channel either. Don't you guys worry about that. And hopefully, come the end of the summer, this guy will be playing for the Villa, Dan. I mean, it's just such an exciting prospect, isn't it, Dan? This is why we love doing these transfer rumour mills. We were talking about Cavani. We were talking about Higuain. We were talking about these sort of, the names that really excite you, but they're not going to sign. But given how well Villa have performed last season, Dan, it kind of seems somewhat realistic that we can actually sign a winger of this calibre.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. If there's one thing you can count on transfer rumour mills for, it's allowing you guys to get carried away. This summer, we've earned the right. We've done the Borja Bastons and the Danny Drinkwaters that I was talking about at the top of the pod. I want to get excited this summer, mate. And the thing is, as you said earlier, we're not ITKs, we know, but it's friend of the pod, Greg Evans, who's said that we're interested in both of these players. And, to give Greg his credit, he's a good journalist. very
Very
reliable.
good.
You know,
Yeah.
he's one of the leading ones that you can trust on the Villa for. And so, you know, whilst I'm not saying that, putting no pressure on you here, Greg, sorry, mate. You know, he has proven to be very reliable in the past. So let's hope he is this time too.
Absolutely, mate. And I think that's a good note to end the first transfer rumour mill of summer 2021. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, what you think about Dwight McNeil, about EMI Buendia. Who would you prefer out of the two? I think I know, but let us know specifically more your thoughts on Dwight McNeil, as I've not seen too much discourse regarding him. And if you haven't already, guys, subscribe. It would mean the most. We're going to try and hit 5,000 subscribers before the season starts, which would be absolutely incredible. So yeah, as I say, thank you. If you enjoyed this video, hit a like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. Up the Villa.